Ithrada and Sarah, and these two women used to work together at TechnoBrain. And now Sarah is at Sandy. So what I'm going to have them do is introduce themselves. And the way this platform or this format is set up is that 15 minutes of it will be their personal journey from each speaker. So depends on who wants to come on first, but it'll be the first 15 minutes will be about their personal journey. Another 15 minutes would be the speaker two's personal journey, and then their shared topic. Now their shared topic, once again, is women in tech. They'll be talking about that. If you have any questions throughout this session, please make sure you post it on the chat window or you unmute yourself during the Q&A. The rest of the session after their shared talk will be the general Q&A, where you can bring out your questions for whether it's the personal journey or the shared topic. So without further ado, I am handing over the mic to Sarah and Isfeta. Take it away, ladies.
Hi everyone. This is Isfeta. Hi. I think I'll start. My name is Ethreda Chow, and maybe to talk about myself, I could talk about where I started, where my passion for software engineering started, and where I'm at right now. So I would say I got interested in software engineering probably around high school when I took computer studies. It was part of the subjects that is offered in high schools in Kenya. And I think it was quite interesting for me in terms of the things I could get to do, things I could get to build with computers. And my favorite thing, I think, was the final project that you get to do in high school, where you get to build something, and um, I mean, it's part of the final examination in high school. So that was a very interesting thing for me to do because it was quite practical. And since then, I pretty much knew that I would be pursuing this further in terms of my career and in terms of picking it up in college. So I went ahead and did my bachelor's in computer science in Egerton University. I don't know if there's anyone in Egerton University in the in the meeting, but that's where I did my undergraduate in computer science, and it was quite interesting as well, going through it in school. Um, but I think in school I had what I had in mind of what I'd get to learn in school and what I thought I would get to do with computer science was quite different. I found out in college that it was more practical, I mean less practical and more theoretical in terms of what was taught, and so I actually spent most of my time in campus, attending hackathons. I really liked hackathons. And I think you guys went through a hackathon session where you presented ideas and they were judged. I didn't get to be part of that, but that's quite interesting. So I was really interested in that. I got to attend hackathons in college. I got to work on projects, try different, try solving different problems using software engineering. Um, and I think that was also very, it helped me a lot in terms of, learning way more than what was taught in school. And towards the end of my third year and in the beginning of my final year in school, I founded this project called Afya Plan, which is health it's kind of like a group savings platform. I don't know if you guys know about Chamas, where group save like micro savings groups can be able to pool resources to be able to afford healthcare services. Um, so I came up with this idea in a hackathon as well, where we were trying to solve problems that were, we're trying to use technology to solve health problems in Kenya and in Africa. And so it was actually in the hackathon, most of the groups were made of doctors and nurses, and at the team I was in, it was the only group that was with um, computer science students, that is. So that's when we decided to work on something that really didn't need us to have a doctor in the team. So we thought of how we could use um, our computer science knowledge to help solve healthcare problems. So that's when we came up with this project. And it was very interesting just seeing how you could use your skills as a software engineer to actually solve actual problems that people face in the real world. So that was a very um, interesting journey, I would say, or interesting experience that I had leading the team and just working on this project. So we presented it in iHub. At that time, iHub was really, the place to be, um, and uh, we pitched it there. We had a panel session. We had, some judges that judged our project, and we ended up winning that hackathon. We also presented it to um, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and we also won it in Germany in the same hackathon as well. So that was and also getting to interact with like healthcare leaders in the healthcare sector, and getting to see how interested they were with what you're able to build. It was really great to see that you can have that kind of impact just using your skills. So after that, I finished school and continued working on the project, worked on other personal projects, worked on different. I think there's someone who's no, okay, cool. So I worked on, worked in different companies, I would say. So I worked in a startup setting until the time I got to work in the current role that I'm in Technobrain. And yeah, so I think I've learned a lot throughout my journey since I started up to the point, where I'm at right now, where I'm currently a software engineer in the Microsoft privacy team. I'm working through a vendor company, Technobrain. Yeah, and I've gotten to learn a lot, and in this position that I'm in, and yeah, and I've got it to achieve and build things I wouldn't have thought of I would be able to build or work on. Yeah, so I think that pretty much summarizes about me and what I've been able to work on and what I've been up to this point. Any more questions, I think, during the Q&A session. So probably let Sarah take over from here.
Thank you, Astrada. You have a really inspiring story. I pray mine is as inspiring as yours. But my name is Sarah Lois Wawera, and I am currently an APM, which means I am an associate product manager at Sendi Limited. Sendi is a logistics company that ensures people are able to deliver goods from point A to point B. My journey starts in class 6 when I started playing with computers, but for me it was just games, Microsoft Solitaire, and that's all. I did not have any interest whatsoever to know how that game came about. To me, it was just interesting. So fast forward, I did computer in high school. The only outstanding moment I can remember about me doing computer in high school is during our KCP, we did our project and our teachers just seated there and marking, and they were like, oh, this is a very good project, this is a very good project. And one of the subjects I really scored well was computer. So for me, it was, oh, wow, this is such an interesting thing. But all along, my passion has always been to be a lawyer. Those who know me, they know I love talking. So for me, my passion was to be a lawyer, to just do anything law related. And so after high school, I remember having a talk with my mom and my uncle, and just trying to explain to them why I want to be a lawyer. So I have an uncle who is a lawyer, and I was trying to explain to him how law and IT are going to merge one day in the future, and we are going to have lawyers who have a technical background. But his response was like, no, nothing like that will ever happen in the future. So I left it at that. I went to University of Nairobi to ask for enrollment for law, and they requested me to stay for an year out of school, and I was like, no, I'm not waiting for an year to go to school. So that's how I shifted, and I told my mom, it looks like this law course is not coming through for me, so let me just do IT. I will figure out how to do law in future, later in life. So I went to JQuat, applied, and I got in. So I did IT, information and technology at JQuat, and that's where now my real journey in IT started. But all along in my career, I have been having instances where I am not really in the IT field. I am just doing something else. But in such instances, I was always feeling drawn to going back to IT. So I did an internship at a flower farm, and well, it went well. It taught me the basics of troubleshooting. Then after that, I moved to a totally different field where I was in media, I was doing business development. And at that point, I was actually trying to survive in Nairobi. Survival in Nairobi is key. Dear students, it is very key. So yeah, so I did that to survive in Nairobi, and then I was like, no, let me go back to my love, which is IT. So that's how I ended up at Technobrain, where I worked with a trader, and I also got to meet Ruth in one of the hackathons we did at USIU. So since Technobrain, I've been in IT all through. At Technobrain, I started as a software tester, then I got promoted to a project lead, and that role really opened my eyes, to say the least. It brought out so many characters about me that I knew I had, but were probably just hidden, or I was just too shy to bring out. So it made me more confident. I was able to talk to stakeholders. I was able to sit on a table with people and tell them and just provide direction. So it really made me grow, and I am really grateful for that. So I left Technobrain early this year, and I joined Sandy, where I am learning, but it's not slow learning. It's that type of learning that every single day you have to learn something new, you have to push out something new. So it's a very fast-paced environment, and I am really enjoying it because I am coupling all that I have learned at Technobrain and just adding more on top of it to just become a better version of one, myself, and two, to become a better version, to become a good PM, which is a role I have not played anywhere in my career. So it's a challenging role, but I am enjoying the challenges, and I'd urge each and every one of you to just take up anything that is challenging to them. So that's majorly on my career. And besides that, so I have two careers. My other career is more of voluntary work, and I am currently a director at RedP Kenya, and I am also the COO at RedP International, as well as a board member. So basically what RedP does is to just encourage and empower girls and women to take up technology, and all we do in terms of empowering girls and women is through technology. And currently we are working with a group in Amboseli. It's a marginalized community, and the kids there have literally seen a computer in 2016. So you can imagine how surprising that was for them. So at RedP, we aim to empower them, to just show them and teach them anything technology related, because we believe that technology is the future. Yes, that's me in a nutshell.
So we're going to pause here for a moment and see if there's any questions from anyone about these ladies' personal journey and how they got to where they've been. So what we try to do for all of you students is to really give you an insight that it's not all about coming to Microsoft to work at Microsoft, that there are other options for you out there in the ecosystem. And these ladies are really the examples out there, the successful examples that there are other options and other roles that you can get into in other companies. So if you have any questions, I would say let's take a moment right now to either post it on the chat window or you just unmute yourself. Anyone? I am going to interject here and I'm going to ask you ladies something and provide your perspective. Do you have any advice and there are men and women in this crowd, for those that are here who are still in university, on how they would get started as they leave and starting their career? What advice would you give them? We can start with Sarah.
All right, that's a great question, Ruth. My advice would be, don't be afraid. If you feel like you are qualified for that role, even if it's 10% of what is written on that job description, go for it. Go knock that door, pitch. You cannot sell what you don't believe in. So one, also, you need to believe in yourself, so that when you're going to apply for that job, you sell the best version of yourself. There is no one else on this world who can describe yourself better than you can. So if you believe in yourself and you know that you can achieve or you can work towards getting anything you set your mind on, just go for it. Don't let fear stop you. Someone very close to me usually tells me I do not have the concept of fear. I don't know whether that's true, but I go through life with confidence. As long as I am confident and I put my mind to achieve something, I go for it. So my advice to you would be, go for it. Don't let fear stop you, whatever it is, however magnanimous it looks.
Wow, thank you. Great advice. And for those of you that are just getting ready to graduate, you really have nothing to lose. So you're young. So if you're afraid of making mistakes, you're young. You can undo those mistakes, and you can, I would say, fail fast. So you can dust yourselves off and keep going. All right, Clara, I'm going to put you next.
Sure. I mean, I totally agree with you and Sarah on that. And I think one more thing I would advise the students is to be curious. So don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone and try out new things. Try applying what you're learning in school or in class, and try building something. It's actually easier for a company to consider probably a student fresh out of school who has gone an extra step in terms of like um, proving their skills or showing what they can do with their skills. So working on those personal projects would really help you um, learn what, or would really open your mind to what you would actually expect to work on in an actual job setting. So being curious and getting out of your comfort zone and trying out new things, yeah, I think that would help um, in terms of like um, helping growing the students and preparing them for um, what's out there outside of school.
I completely agree, because how do you know if you like it if you don't try it first, right? So for those that are still trying to figure out what they want to do with their with their lives, what they want to do for their career, I say take a little bit of step at a time and just try things. Experiment, see if you like it. If you don't like it, don't see it as a time wasted. See it as a time that you learn something where you don't like that, and so now you can move forward with other things. So I am going to keep you guys on, and I have a couple of questions actually from your friend Agnes uh, on the chat window. Uh, One question, and I'll ask both of you because you're both from different companies now. What's the best way to get in your companies as someone fresh out of college? So we'll start with you, Sarah, and Threda will go next.
Right. Thank you, Ruth. I was actually typing my answer on chat, but let me just say it out loud. I'd say don't shy away from internship positions because, for example, at Sandy, and I believe it's the same case with TechnoBrain, once you have come in at an internship level, the probability of you being retained in that company, if you have proven that you're worth your salt, is very high. Most companies do retain internship positions. So don't shy away under the excuse that, oh, it's not paying well, or it's not the company that I was aiming for, or it's not, I don't know, whatever reason that you might have in your mind. Don't shy away from internship positions because this might be your way of getting into that company. Secondly is, if you do have a project that can be aligned to a business goal or to one of the objectives in the company that you want to join. So for example, at Sandy, we are a logistics company. If you have an idea of how we can improve our services or a different way of running business, and you have a project that you totally believe in, be fearless. Look for a CEO, look for anyone in that company and just try to pitch, or look for people who work in that company and start building your social capital around the people of the companies that you would want to work in, because these are the people who are going to refer you for the jobs that you want. These are the people who are going to put in a good word for you when, for example, you're coming to pitch. So one, don't shy away from internships. And two, if you have a project that is aligned to any business goal, be fearless and pitch it to founders of the company, or even better, build your social capital and use that to get into those companies.
That's perfect. Thank you, Sarah. I'll go to Ithreda, and then we will do one more question, and I'll hold off on the other question for later on as you go into the shared topic. Okay. I'm putting you in spotlight now.
Okay.
It's better.
Yeah, so I think what Sarah has just talked about is very important. Um, I'm not sure currently if the test center that I'm in at Technobrain offers internship opportunities, but since we are interviewing, or we are working for Microsoft as um, our end our end user, or our customer in this case, the hiring process is a little bit more like how Microsoft hires. So you'd find that the hiring process is quite standard. Um, to prepare for these kinds of interviews, you'd have to just study on the things that you've been studying in school, actually, algorithms, data structures, um, because they want to see how your problem solving skills are, how you think about a problem, and how you'd come up with solutions. Because currently in what we work on, you'd probably not have worked on it before. So it will be a totally new, it might be a totally new area, or something very different from what you used to. So you'd have to rely on your problem solving skills to actually um, solve the problems that you face in the actual job. So in terms of larger corporations or larger companies, I think the interviewing process is pretty much standardized. But when you're joining a startup company, or a smaller company, I think it really helps in terms of just having gotten out of your comfort zone and learned, um, or experimented and done a bit more with your skills, to show for to prove to the company why they should hire you. And in those cases, even in I'd say in Technobrain, it will really help you, apart from passing the technical interviews. It will really help if you can show what you can build, or what you've been able to build or achieve with your skills. It shows you can go a step further in terms of um, you know just trying new things, and yeah, it will probably give you a better chance of joining the company.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And I'm going to put you still on the spot for the next question. And this will be our last question before you go into your shared topic. The next question is, how do you best prepare for your interview for a role such as yours?
Okay, so preparing for software engineering interviews, depending on the company that you are targeting to work in. Say, for example, in Technobrain or Microsoft in this case, you would have to know your data structures, algorithms. So there are a lot of materials out there in terms of um, these kinds of topics, and you'll find a lot of platforms also, like LeetCode, that will really help you prepare. And you don't have to do like all the questions on LeetCode, but you can just do a few questions that would give you an idea of how you can approach such questions. It also opens up your mind to thinking about problems, and coming up with better solutions for your actual project. So you could try solving a few problems, and just understanding some fundamentals of computing, because you'd be expected to know that, things like how memory works, and how the operating system works. So just understanding the fundamentals, knowing how to solve problems. Um, Probably if you're aiming for more senior position, you would be expected to know how to design or architect systems. So you would have to understand how different components of a system would work together. So you'd have to think of, you'd have to know some design fundamentals. So yeah, probably what you learn in school. I know a lot of people just go through algorithms in school without really thinking it would come in handy in terms of like preparing for interviews, but it really does. And yeah, so just understanding that, and if you're also interviewing for a very specific role, like a web developer role, you'd be expected to know a lot of things about web development specifically. So unless you're applying for a specific role like that, if it's a general software engineering role, then the questions will be more generalized in terms of just algorithms and data structures. And maybe Sarah can advise you if you want to be a project manager, what you can expect in terms of the interview process and how you can prepare for that.
Oh, great segue. I'm going to put the spotlight on Sarah now. All right, Sarah, what do you need to do to be a PM?
So I'll start by saying different companies have different definitions of PM. And even before I get into that, PM in so there is PM product manager, there is PM project manager, project and product. So I am currently a product manager, but in Technobrain, I was a project lead. So these two things are very different and more or less require different skills, but not day and night different. They are two roles that are easily interchangeable. So it depends with which company you're going to. So for example, at Technobrain, I was promoted from being a software tester to a project lead. So I can't speak fully about the requirements for a project lead besides just knowing your craft. But now moving to Sandy, where I am a product manager, you are required to, one, understand how product organization works. So as a product manager, I am an interface between business, UX, and technical. So you have to understand all these three facets of an organization and how they work and being able to bring all their goals together. So that basically means you need to be very good in communication, and you need to be, so communication goes both ways, oral and written, because more often than not, you'll be talking to people. So you will need to make sure that your communication skills are top notch. And you are required to be a strategic thinker, because you're trying to get solutions for people who might, one, not understand their problem very well, or two, might also understand their problems very well. So those are some of the two skills that I'd want to highlight. I know we do have a session where we're talking about our experiences, and I'll talk more about it at that point. But besides going through your degree, you can come in as a PM from a technical background, a business background, a marketing background, as long as you can be able to defend yourself with these two skills. But for more skills, I'll highlight them later.
Awesome. So that later has come, and I am handing it over to you for your shared topic. So I don't know who is doing the talk first, if it's you, Sarah, in which case I am just going to take off my camera here and I'll mute myself and you take it away.
Actually, it's a thread starting so that I build on top of what she says.
Okay, cool. So I'll start. Maybe I can talk about my current role, what I've been working on, and yeah. So so currently I'm working in, as I mentioned, in Technobrain as a software engineer in the Microsoft privacy team. I actually started out as a tester, so I was a tester for I think 2-3 months when the project started. So it was a new project that was introduced in Technobrain, and then that's when I did the interview for the software engineering role, which really involved just the solving algorithm questions, basically understanding your technical background. Sorry, I think I dropped off for a bit. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, so the interview wasn't really as intense, I would say, but it was probably like a 2-hour session with an interviewer from Microsoft, where they ask you some algorithm questions, some databases question, depending on what you're going to work on. And after that, I started the role I started working on I started working as a software engineer in the privacy team, where I basically I basically build privacy compliance tools. So I've been working on tools that automate some processes that the testing team works on. So we have a testing team and we have a dev team in the privacy team currently in Technobrain. So we build and maintain some tools that the testing team uses to just help automate some of the processes that they currently do manually. And we also work on some tools that are used by that are publicly available to anyone that Microsoft offers to the public. Tools that, for example, because we're working in the privacy in the privacy section of the organization, so we focus on things that do with your machine communicating with Microsoft servers. So we work on tools that probably stop that communication if we don't want it to happen. And so in cases that happens, we get to fix the tools that are currently available. We also work to make sure that the pre-release builds, so Microsoft releases their OSs I think twice a year, so we work on tools that make sure that the pre-released builds that have not yet been released to the market adhere to the or are privacy compliant. And yeah, so it has been a great experience for me working in the team, where I've gotten to learn new things. I've gotten to work on different things. So before that, I was not, give an example, I was not programming in C#. And because most of the products that or the projects that we work on are written in C#, I got to learn that. So that was an interesting thing for me to do. So I got to learn a new programming language. I got to work on different tools that I had not worked on before. For example, I got to work on the Wireshark tool and building some plugins for it. Yeah, and I got to work with amazing team members, both in Technobrain and in Microsoft as well. Yeah, so I think it has been a great experience for me. I'll hand it over to Sarah. Yeah.
All right. So just to build on top of what Estrada has said, so she is an engineer. And for me as a PM, what I do is I get business goals, and by business goals, I mean I meet stakeholders, I meet marketing team, and they tell me, so this is what we want to achieve. How can you help us from a product perspective? So I'll take that requirement, make sure that I have answered all the questions in terms of what problem are we trying to solve, because you need to know what you're solving for. So once I have understood that, I'll take that same requirement to the UX team, in this case, user experience team, or designers team. In Sandy, they're called designers, but generally it's the UX team. So I'll explain the same problem and the solution that I have in mind. So I'll be with the CX person, with the UX person, sorry, and I'll tell this person, this and this and this is what we are trying to solve for. And we will build a product that enables a user or a customer to do this and this and this and this. So he or she will sit down, come up with screens and interfaces of how it's going to look. Then I'll take this requirement to a traders team and tell them, hey guys, so this is what we want to build it for me. So that's the role of a PM. I am an interface between the business where I'm supposed to build a valuable product for them. For the UX team, I need to build a usable product for them in terms of how does the user interact with our system? Is font overlaid on something else? Is text overlaid on text? That for that experience from a UX angle is not ideal. So with the UX team, they'll tell me this and this is how it's supposed to be. So for them, it has to be usable. Then for the technical team, which in this case is a traders team, the engineers, they'll need to build something that is feasible, something that we can support, something that we can maintain for long with the technology that is available. So you'll find that, especially with the technical team, they'll move from one language to a different, so different companies have different standards. But for example, at Sandy, you can find that one team is using maybe this programming language and it somehow interfaces with another, or a different team is using one specific programming language. So different teams, different engineering teams have different programming languages. At the end of the day, all I want is a product that meets the business goals and the UX goals and the technical goals. So that is basically what a PM does. You sit down, get your problems defined, and to also mention in terms of skills, you also need to be very good in asking questions. More often than not, you'll find your users do not even understand their problem as well as they think they do. Someone might come to you with a problem and tell you, so I have a problem logging in. That's a problem. But you ask someone why, so they'll tell you because either the app doesn't show up, or maybe even because they haven't switched on their bundles. So in terms of asking questions, one thing we usually do at Sandy is when someone comes to you with a problem, you ask that person 5 whys. So for example, I'll come and say, I cannot log in. I'll ask you why. You'll give me an answer. I'll ask you why again. You'll give me an answer. I'll ask you why again. So this entire process will one, enable you as a user to understand your problem better and to know if the first problem that you outlined, if it's the actual problem, or by the time we're getting to the 5th why, you have a totally different problem. Then for me, it helps me understand why our customers or our users are not able to achieve a certain goal. So it goes both ways in terms of asking questions, and asking questions is very paramount because you'll be able to build something for the users, something that is being requested for, not ending up as a feature factory where you just push out products and products and products on top of more products that are already out there in the market. So it really helps define the why of the engineering team. Having said that, there are good and bad experiences. There's a phrase in Swahili that says there is nothing good that doesn't have a bad. So majorly for me, I feel like the good outweigh the bad. And once you have, so I am a very optimistic person, and those who are around me, I always tell people, look at the good in everything that you do. Yes, there are going to be bad experiences where one, you can find very arrogant users who don't want to talk to you, because one of the things that I'm required to do is to talk to customers on a daily basis to understand their to understand their problems. But if you find an arrogant user, you can't let that be the defining moment of your day. If anything, problems are not supposed to define you, they're supposed to refine you. So just pick up the pieces and move on. And if you look at the good more often outweighs the bad. And that feeling of pushing a product out and you see the usage of that product really shoot is one awesome experience. Seeing someone using a Sandy product or seeing a motorbike that's branded Sandy, that's really awesome for me. So don't let the bad days define the rest of your career. That's all I can say for my experience.
All right. So as far as you have your shared experience, you also work together in the same company. Now, tell us about your journey as a woman in the tech world. As it is, we still, I mean, just for context here, I've been in this industry for almost 23 years now. So I have been in this industry when I was either the youngest person in the room, the only woman in the room, and this was in the US. So I was the only Asian in the room, and I was surrounded by older white men in the tech world, and I was a developer. Okay, so it was for my career, it was a good almost 10 years before I started seeing women in the same space I was working in being tech. So ladies, I would love to hear your story of some of the things that you come across as a woman in this tech world and how you overcome them.
Maybe I can go first since I'm still being spotlighted,
Yes.
But that's a very, very interesting question. And my experience has both good and bad, but we survive. So I totally relate to what you have said, Drew. And there is some muffling noise. I'm not sure where it's coming from.
Yes, there's a lot of noise coming from somewhere. And just check who I can. Oh, they
All right,
muted.
great. Yeah. All right. So I'll start with the bad and then go to the good because good news are always nice to end with. I remember when I was fresh out of college. So my internship role was in a flower farm in Embu, and then my boss decided, actually I hadn't finished school at that point, but at that point my boss decided to give me a project. So I built him a website and it was so nice. So after I handed it over to him, his reply a few weeks later was, you actually have a good, you have very, you are good in tech. So since there is nothing much you're doing here, I will fire you so that you go and look for whatever you're supposed to be working on out there in the world. You're not serving your purpose here. So I was fired. I came back to school and I finished. So at that point, my idea was, since I was halfway through school and I had a job, I wanted to move to online classes since JQuat offers that. So I wanted to go through that internship session, get a permanent job, and still finish school online. But my boss was like, that is not going to happen. So I was fired. So I had to come back to school. I came back to school, I finished, then I started tamaking like we all do, Nairobians and Kenyans. And I remember at one time I went for an interview in South Sea. And the first session of the interview was done by two gentlemen, and they were very happy that I had passed the interview. So I went back home, received a call back. I went back, and this second round, my interview was with a lady. And the only question she asked me was, this is a male-dominated space. My entire team is male. I am the only female. Please explain to me how you're going to survive with male working with male colleagues. And my reply to her was, so when I was in campus, our first year class and second year class, I was the only lady. So I told her, I have worked with, I have gone to school with, I've gone to a class, or I have attended classes where I am the only woman. So shifting that ideology of this is a class and this is work setup, for me it wouldn't be difficult. So we talked about it for a good 1.5 hours, and her answer was no. She is not going to hire me because it's a male-dominated company, and she doesn't think I am going to survive. So, well, it crushed me, a good one. It really did. And at that point, I was really annoyed at the world for putting women in such a position where you cannot just get a job in a male-dominated world. So fast forward, I was able to get jobs and everything. Then now, after getting a job, you get to a point where you've either been promoted or you're working with male counterparts and you're rejected by your own team. And it's not that they have anything major against you. It's just because of the mere fact you are a woman, and there is nothing you can do about it. You cannot change your gender, you cannot. So all these experiences, they have taught me to just show up every single day. Regardless of how many people reject me, I will just show up, I will do my part, and I will go my way, because there is nothing I can change about my gender. The only thing I can change is to talk to these men or these people. So right now, there are not even gender-based war. There is, from where you come from, like Ruth has mentioned, Asian, like the wars have really become more specific to a certain group. So the only thing I can change is try to empower more girls to take up more spaces and more roles in technical and STEM classes, as well as also teach the boy child, or teach the man child that is man child, boy child, sorry, boy child. Teach the boy child that these are your fellow, like there is no major difference between a man and a woman. So just teaching the boy child to accommodate the girl child, and also telling the girl child, you need to take up your space. So that has been my bad experience. My good experience is getting support, a lot of support from family and friends, some who are here in this call. So thank you to each and every one of you for supporting me through this journey and being here today. So you actually get to have a good community, and you build a community of people who support you and people who want to see you win. So that's one of the good things that has come out of it. Secondly is you are recognized for your work, not because you're a woman, but because one, you have to work extra hard to prove yourself, because that's the system we live in, sadly. So you find yourself working extremely hard to just perform your roles, because it might not even be because of the gender-based wars, but even because you find that you're juggling a lot of things. You can be a mom, you can be a student, you can be something totally different, and you still have to show up at work. So that hard work ends up being recognized, and you end up getting promotions and promotions, and that is how your career grows. So there are bad days, definitely bad days, and they really get to someone, but you really need to have thick skin and just decide to be an optimistic person. Always remember that a problem or a bad situation or a negative experience that does not define you, it only refines who you are. Estrada?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, Sarah, on that. So I think for me, my experience with the differences I've seen in terms of the gender gap that we have in the tech industry, I think it kind of starts in college, where you're like one of probably 5, 10 girls in a class of like 100 or 80, and sometimes for me, I would notice that if for example, I would make a mistake in school, um, you would hear comments like, "Oh, this is what girls do." You'd hear more general comment about women, where when a guy makes a mistake, or it's just a guy who made a mistake. So there are those subtle comments that people make, jokes that maybe your friends make even in class, that would make you feel a bit uncomfortable, and you just wonder why, you know, why is it necessary for you to make such a comment? You know, I'm supposed to be unequal to you. We're in the same class, we're doing the same course and things like that. So it kind of starts in school. And I think I was also hearing a story of an interesting story of a lady who talked about how she felt compelled to like be a bit more boyish, you know, when she was in school, and just to fit in. You know, when you're too galley, it's, you know, you're not taken seriously. It's like we have um, this image of how for example, a software engineer should look like, and it's always a guy in a hoodie and things like that. And when you're too galley again, people look at you weird, and you know, they don't take you seriously in what you do. And so it kind of starts with those just small things that we experience. And for me also, running a startup, I've had just I've had experiences with, for example, team members that I've worked with, or just people that I've worked with, who would talk of ladies, for example, in a meeting setting, and it kind of gives you an idea that they don't really value your opinion because you're a lady. I've also had people who address me as Mr. because my name is not really common, so they wouldn't really think that I'm a lady. For example, if they send me an email and things like that. So I've had all those funny experiences in the tech sector. But fortunately, currently in the team that I'm in, um, it's a very, we rarely think of gender, you know, we just think of each other as colleagues, where it's very rare that you think of, oh, my colleague is a guy or my colleague is a girl, because you're working on the same projects and things like that. And then something also I noticed is I'm yet to be interviewed by a lady interviewer. All the interviews that I've ever done, they've always been men. So that's also something I've gotten to notice. But I think things are progressively changing. The society has become more accepting of women in tech positions and in leadership positions, especially in the tech sector. And what I would advise, I think, women, especially in college, I think we have mostly students in the meeting, is don't really think of it as you're different or anything, or you need to change who you are to fit in, or this is how an engineer should look like. Just be yourself. You don't have to change anything about yourself for you to fit in. You would still achieve. You can achieve even more actually than what the guys can achieve. So you can, and technology actually doesn't really care who you are. If you build a great product, for example, it will speak for itself. So, and in terms of also startup, we're seeing a lot more. We, of course, currently in the startup sector, very few startups have. You'd find more male-led startups have more funding compared to women-led startups, and that is also something that is progressively changing. So don't be afraid to like try something new. Don't be afraid to start a project or build a project, or think what people are going to think about you. You can still do it. And I think also what Sarah mentioned, you could look for communities and join communities, especially women communities in tech. And when you see people around you who look like you and have been able to achieve so much more, I think it gives you some sort of confidence, even going into the job market and doing your interviews, and you present yourself a bit more confident, knowing that there are also people who look like you that have done much greater things, I think. Yeah.
Thank you both for that very inspiring stories. I know that a lot of women still, even today, struggle through the whole diversity thing. And even at ADC, for those of you who are interested, we do have a meetup group that meets virtually every fourth Wednesday of every month. It's called Women and Allies. And what we do is we bring in women and their allies into this talk. So for tomorrow, I'm going to post it here on the chat window. I encourage you to attend. Tomorrow, our speaker is Marianne Moera, and she works. She's the senior vice president at Citibank, and she is going to be talking about reimagining your work-life balance. So as women, we always have to be, subjected to many different roles. For me, for example, I'm not only the lead at ADC for program lead at ADC, but I also I am a spouse of a over here. I'm a part of a diplomatic family, so I'm a spouse of a diplomat. So that entails responsibilities, as part of, even though you're just a spouse. I have 2 children, so I tell people that I am the CEO of the Furlan household. I run this household and everything that goes with it, as well as my kids' schedules. Whether it's school, doctor's appointments, all of that. And so to many of us women, we do struggle with the juggle. And I would encourage you to please come join us tomorrow evening. And I posted, I think I posted it. Did I post it? No, it didn't go through. And hear out Marianne on her talk. And so I know we're way past the top of the hour. I do want to address one last question for that someone had placed in the chat window. And that question is, when you started your career, did you find mentors and advocates who spoke on your behalf behind those closed doors? And Sarah, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Sure. So when I started out, I didn't know the value of having mentors to help me in my journey. So it was basically a me fight alone. I was going to different interviews, just trying to get myself into it. But now that I have advanced, my career spans like 5 years or 6. This is when I am learning the importance of having mentors and advocates and actively going out of my way to look for people or to even partner with people who I know, in given a chance, they'd speak highly of me. At times, it's not me pitching myself to them. At times, it's just doing a project with them or just helping out in a voluntary activity they're engaged in, and just talking to them. This building your social capital goes a long way, as much as, so building intellectual capital and building social capital are both important. But right now, one thing I have come to understand is social capital is also very important. And having people who can talk good about you, even when you're not in that room, is one of the best things you can ever do for yourself, because you don't know what they could be talking about, right? And point in case, when we started Red P, I wanted to be a volunteer, yes, but had I considered to be the director? No. Agnes, I'm not sure whether she's in this meeting, she just sat and decided, you know what, actually Sarah can make a good director. And that's how I ended up being a good director, or rather being a director. That basically goes to show that social capital is very important. So to answer that question, no, I did not have that in the beginning, but right now I know how important it is, and I'm actively trying to build my social capital.
Perfect, that's awesome. Isreta, I'm going to ask you, and you are going to close us up with your comments, and then I will get everybody out of here.
Sure. I mean, for me, I did have some sort of mentorship, mostly when I was working on my startup, and didn't really the mentors that I had, none of them were women, because it was also really hard to find women who would mentor you in this space. So I had some sort of mentorship in terms of my entrepreneurship journey, but in terms of my tech career, I've not really had an actual mentor to um, mentor me. But I think it's important, as Sarah has mentioned it, to have a mentor who would probably guide you in the right direction, so that you don't um, really get lost. And it's also important for women as well to have um, a woman mentor, who would um, you would probably have some similar experiences, and it's good to have someone who has gone through what you're probably going through, and they can guide you in like the right direction. But you'll find that mostly these days, if you'd have a mentor, you'd probably find male mentors, because you'd find that your, uh, let's say, your leads or your the senior engineers that you have, if they were to be your mentors, most of them would be men. But it's still good to have a mentor, despite them being men or women, to just help you guide you in your career. Yeah, and maybe to close this off, my closing remarks, right? I've really enjoyed having this session with you guys, and I would just like to advise every one of you to be curious, and don't stop learning. And I think the thing that I like about the tech sector is it's ever changing. It's a bit I'll say a bit challenging, but in a good way, because you have to keep learning every day. You have to, keep learning something new, and that means that it's not going to be boring for you. So be curious, keep learning, and the sky's the limit, I think.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Estrada. And Sarah, your parting short, and then I'm really gonna close it up.
Sure, sure. So, two things. One, I want to challenge the students to learn how to lead without authority. It really goes a long way. And please, if you get good tips, look for me. I'll be happy to take pointers from the students. And two, I'll read out a quote, and it says, "To all the girls and boys, men and women who are watching and listening this, never doubt that you are valuable and powerful and deserving of every chance and opportunity in the world to pursue and achieve your dreams." Oh, sorry, your own dreams. Sorry, I'll go again. "To all the girls and boys, men and women who are watching and listening this, never doubt that you are valuable and powerful and deserving of every chance and opportunity in the world to pursue and achieve your own dreams." Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sarah, and thank you for all of those that have joined us today. You enjoy the rest of your day, and stay tuned for our next session. Tomorrow is our next session. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Ruth. Goodbye. Have a lovely afternoon.
Bye, everyone.